So question actually has been inside for a little longer, and today the impulse is coming to ask you about that. So through a period of a few years, I have been in a tantric process with a tantric master and have experienced to me very peaks of existence. I've gone very high, traveled in the consciousness, and the last year I'm finding myself in a completely different situation. It appears to me as a very ordinary life. I do work, having relationship, it seems very ordinary and very worldly. So I do enjoy that very much. In some way, a question mark is remaining of if you can say out of your experience or wisdom, is there any trick of the mind, because the peaks are not available, it seems so ordinary. Yeah, so the question mark is there, is everything all right?
Well, it has very little to do with the mind. It has to do with the body. And since, well, the only reason why I'm giving the direct, immediate response is because you have worked with a tantric teacher, as far as I understood, right? And so then you will understand that, because Tantra works with the body. In fact, in Tantra, the body is the doorway. And what you're experiencing, first of all, is natural, it's normal. For every peak there is a valley, right? This is very well known. I don't know how long that peak experience remained. I don't know how long it was in terms of duration, but there can be many factors, right? So if what you feel is simply that mundaneness took over, right? That may be not just novelty, but with peak experiences, if we are sustained here, even down to the nutritional component of our body. Because this whole alchemy of the body, interdependent, all the processes in the body are interdependent, including mental processes. We cannot view our mental processes from what is happening at the level of our digestion, assimilation of nutrients. And the list is quite comprehensive. Therefore, Tantra as a methodology traditionally has always been considered its approaches with other sister sciences that came from Indian subcontinent, because they share the same provenance. They all come from a particular branch of Veda. And Tantra works with herbs, just as Ayurveda. Tantra works with stones and crystals, with colors. Certainly begins with a correct and appropriate, constitutionally aligned with your needs diet. These are the just off my, head immediately. Peak experiences, especially if these peak experiences were accompanied by a release of all these juices into the body, serotonin, DMT, right? Oxytocin, all these hormones that gives us elated states of consciousness. We cannot speak anymore in 21st century about all these spiritually elated states without understanding it properly with the findings available in neuroscience. It's simply kind of like narrowing our perspective. It is available. Neuroscientists today are actually want to be tantrikas, believe it or not. I guarantee you that Joe Dispenza, he would love to be tantrika more than anything. All his retreats are completely from Vijnana Bhairava, all the methodology, principal text of tantric meditation approaches. All comes from there. I call it smart, being informed. So even from that point of view, peak experiences, and that is clinical understanding. I can reassure you and confirm to you that in my own work, I have observed that repeatedly, not just in my own experiences back in the day, actually as I'm working with people now, today. And that has been a long time now, nearly 20 years of clinically observing what people go through after peak experiences. One of the key aspects of the valley, right, going low, is being nutritionally exhausted. Because in the alchemical process of transformation, a lot of vital juices are being used, right, through the more excessive working of the cerebrospinal fluid, which takes all this through the system of the tissues, above all else, through the bone marrow. Just to remind you, those of you who have delved into Ayurveda might know that there are 7 tissues that our body is made of, right? Plasma, blood, muscle, fat, bone marrow, and reproductive tissue. Reproductive tissue is the final tissue, which is a byproduct of all digestive processes from plasma all the way till it becomes a reproductive tissue and the might of our vitality. This is the luster in the eyes, and this is the strength of our immune system. That's what here reproductive tissue represents. It has a specific term in Sanskrit. So notice the connection. This reproductive tissue comes right after bone marrow. Nutritionally speaking, the content of our bone marrow is where where all that might is. The working of our nervous system is through the bone marrow. It's obvious, isn't it? It's just stating the obvious. So many of those who undergo these more elated states find themselves depleted because a lot of that substance went through as a fuel of the process, which then, if providing, it culminates in opening the certain centers in the higher cortexes, is accompanied by rekindling of these crucial glands, which begin to function more optimally. If before there was like an occasional drop of oxytocin, occasional drop of serotonin, right? A little bit release of DMT. Then now it's a constantly, or maybe even a stream. But where does it come from? It has to come from somewhere. This is what alchemy here represents. So the nutritional setup that feeds the body's tissues here is now being depleted. This balance has always been understood in Tantra, in Tantric practices. Diet here is not how much food I eat or how often I eat. Now it needs to be packed with a very different quality of food. It needs to be packed with direct source of energy rather than secondary one? It's a very, very good question, because this question kind of already brings us closer to tomorrow's closure of the program, which always we speak about how to integrate retreat experiences, and whenever we have newcomers, we always touch upon this. So thank you, this is very, very fitting. But this is, we just talked about the, let's say, chemical composition, which is, if some people deny this or ignore this, the consequences are there and then, immediately. We cannot view body and mental processes independent from the full picture. There's no such thing as thinking. Thinking can be sharp, clear, very, very transparent and crisp. Or it can be foggy, fuzzy, and and that doesn't mean because we are spiritually somehow advancing. Take some Brahmi, just as, some herbs that begin to balance the left and right hemisphere of the brain. Oh, there's greater clarity. Oh, wow. Just a few days ago, didn't know what decision to make, just know what to do. You see? So this is why I'm saying it's all in the body, nothing to do with the mind. Don't worry about the mind. Now, the mundane aspect, right? This is, we're continuing with but now you need to meet me halfway through in your understanding. So, and this is also very much what we spoke already, touched upon, and went quite into in our container for the retreat participants. This will be an opportunity to revisit that. All this boils down to the clarity of perception and how the windows of perception are really functioning. Mundane cannot take over consciousness. It's an oxymoron. How can that be? No. Soon as the windows of perception begins to get foggy, then our experiences begin to get too mundane. Come to the kitchen sink, dirty, nasty kitchen to clean, in a state of when everything is alert in you. You'll put your speaker, you put your favorite apron, and you'll put like a really good rock concert, and you will be at it having a real good time. Okay? Even if that kitchen doesn't give in to the fantastic, sunset view, it will not at all hamper that experience. And that goes for everything else. Yes, when the nervous system gets tired, then the quality of our experience begins to get colored by that. But why do we dwell on? We don't need to dwell on that. The body is getting tired, that's all. I'm witnessing this. I'm understanding what's going on. The body is getting tired. If your household, I don't know your setup, but just saying so that those whose life is busy, this needs to be taken care of, that needs to be taken care of, Kids need to be taken to school, from school, fed, this, that, you need to be good parent. Or a good child to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. You need to take care of business. A lot of things need to be done during the day, so we get tired. Whenever we get tired, it's natural that the quality of our experience begins to, as a result, get diminished. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's no need to blame somehow losing the peak experience. Nobody lives on the peak. The whole thing is about bringing that, what is being experienced in the peak, down into the valley of life. The height of spiritual experiences, insights and realizations meant to be brought down into the hustle bustle of household life, down to the interaction. Then it's of value. Not like, okay, I was on the peak, it was lovely, now I'm back into this mess, when I'm out of here, back to the peak, And this will never work long term. No, it's to bring that into the life. Being aware that quality of our experience rests upon quality of our perception. When perception is clear, and this down to sensory perception, because sensory perception is only at the receiving end of that where clarity itself comes from, that where they get tinted, when they got dusty. That's where the work needs to be done. That's where these windows of perception are being cleansed. And then it naturally translates into the proper functioning sensory perception which now organs of cognition provide. And when organs of cognition now give this boost from there, because the clarity comes from there, it's not about how good is my sight or hearing. We talked about it already. It's what we are able to perceive through the senses. And mundane sets in only when there is somehow a lack of that what makes every experience into extraordinary experience. Sense of wonder is a natural state of a nervous system brought to a place of equilibrium. Even if we are getting shaken by this or that, as inevitably all of us will. That's the way of life. Life is designed for things to go wrong. Constantly. Not just occasionally. So this is how to look and the angle to take. But if we somehow under the impression that these heightened experiences, being at peak experiences, and how to maintain that quality in our daily interaction, in our daily life, then we need to remember that it all boils down to how much of that higher experiences have had the chance to go into the valley of what is our body here, what is our nervous system, how much integration took place. And therefore, periodically, there have to be this something. Periodically, before that takes place, there have to be something. Do you understand what I mean by something? There has to be something where the opportunity for cleansing the windows of perception. Periodically, there has to be, you need to be equipped with how to, so as to be able to keep that what inevitably will be generated in the mundane experience of life, because that's always filled with myriad of ways of how we accumulate stress, accumulate this, what then begins to lay sediment And that's how these windows of perception of which I speak of begin to get smudged, begin to get dusty, foggy. Some light still comes through. There is still some light, but far from clean windows. You have fantastically clean windows around this house, everywhere. So any light that comes outside, any sunlight, immediately streams into the room. And then everything that is in a room is lit in a greater way. So that's just a reminder. But don't blame the mind. Don't worry about the mind playing tricks and so forth, because it's a bodily thing. You studied and did some Tantra work. That's what Tantra is. Understanding what's going on in the body. Not that we get arrested at that level. We work with the body. We don't ignore it. Because if we ignore the body for too long, body begins to ignore us. And that is a calamity. We don't want that. When body is fed up not being heard, it will make itself heard. It will put its foot down, like this, and like, okay, this, that. It's like suddenly it speaks, communicates something. Or it can communicate in a subtle way, which is even worse. At least this is direct, very straightforward. Listen to me, kind of thing. But it can do it in a more nasty way, in a less pleasant way, almost behind our back, because we've been so oblivious. The attitude to the body, by the way, tantric attitude to the body, it's that of the mother to a child. It's a care, taking care of, loving care. Then nothing will be mundane. As I said, every event can be turned into a rock concert. One in a lifetime. Every day, one in a lifetime. Well, I'm just saying because I didn't play music whole week, more than now, once loud, because I respect the venue and the container. So of course you can feel that when I'm back to my home and when we'll drive the car, it will be really loud music played there.
Billie Eilish.
That's great. Thanks, Jake, for the reminder. So now we're just laughing at something else. It's a generational thing, because we have teenage children, so they also have musical tastes. So we have to find compromise. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.